Good afternoon, Garth, or morning, or wherever you are.
Well, it's Paris. It's very dark and cold outside. It's got hot in this office, which is why I'm now in a t-shirt. I have to say, though, you definitely win a prize for most festive backdrop I've seen this side of Christmas. Gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing the festive cheer.
All I did was put my camera in front of my wife's mantle, so all the credit goes to her.
Well, please pass on my congratulations and thanks.
Thanks so much, Garth. I should say my kids and I have small kids, and we watched it, really enjoyed it. So great job, first of all.
Thank you, Michael. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Let's go back to the first movie, and I'm just curious how you got this project going. So just kind of go back and tell me your drive for wanting to make an animated movie based on songs. What was your goal and thinking there?
Well, it started not with me, but with Chris Meledandri, who created Illumination Entertainment. And he had this real passion he met me for a cup of tea when he came to London, which is where I used to live. And he'd seen other things I'd done and thought that I might have the right kind of share a similar sensibility to him. So we met and had a cup of tea, and he talked about animals, and he talked about singing and how much music meant to him. And I was like, well, I'm the same. I love this. This is like, what a lovely idea to try and fuse these, to try and create a musical that was like something like The Commitments, where the songs are actually part of people's lives rather than a burst into song musical. And it just started out of a curiosity and a passion for that, and turned into character stories first, and then I was only on board to be a writer, to hand over a script to this animation studio, because I'm not from an animation background. Okay. But two things happened. One, I started to fall in love with the story and the characters and just what the promise of what this film could be. And at the same time, Chris was obviously recognizing in me enough of a sort of skill set that could be transposed to the animation world. There was a lot I had to learn. But the two of us decided that it would be worth a shot, and I moved to their animation studios, which is here in Paris. It's about 800 people that work here on these movies, and I live just down the road in a little apartment down there. And and so it started as what I thought was going to be 2 years, and here we are 8.5 years later, and I just changed my life.
What would you call this movie? I guess let me rephrase the question. Is there something you're trying to teach kids about music? I mean, is this a celebration of music, a celebration of creativity? I mean, you make two movies based on song. There's got to be something there you're wanting kids to learn and appreciate about music.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual music specifically, there is a breadth to the scope that we're trying to. You can't get everything in there, but the idea of the spectrum of music being as broad and as inclusive as possible, that's really important, because that's who I am. That's the sort of sensibility I have, and the sort of upbringing I had of listen to everything. If it was beautiful, it could be enjoyed. It didn't matter what the genre was or the style or even the period that it was created. And there's something I love about that, this all-embracing quality of the music that was there from the beginning. And I suppose it was never like a mission, like we must teach people things or we must educate people in musical genres. But I just like the idea of a movie that is inclusive, that is warm. You know what I mean? That is at its root, at its core, is a joyful experience, because that is literally what they're trying to create for the audience in their world. They are trying to put on a show that is beautiful and that will unite people. And that's what happens in both the ends of these movies. It brings everybody together. And I love that. I found that in my own work, the most profound thing I've ever experienced is when you finish a movie like this, seeing it with an audience is extraordinary. I cannot put into words how that feels. So hopefully that's what is infused in the work you're seeing. Yeah.
I guess what I'm also getting at, though, is that music does tend, like you said, music does tend to bring cultures together, bring people together. So it seems like that is a message in this movie, that it's not explicit, it's kind of implicit, that it's just like the gift of music, and you can convey things in a movie through music that you can't convey through spoken dialogue.
Oh gosh, you couldn't be more right. And it's amazing to me how the opening chords of a song can do more work in terms of emotional impact than anything we could ever write, and we know that already with movies. When when Elliot takes off on his bicycle, it's an awesome shot. But if you didn't have that music, you wouldn't feel it like you do. Do you know what I mean? I think it's amazing the power of this, and to be able to be open to every genre, any kind of music from anywhere is a real gift. It really is lovely to be able to share that with the audience.
Yeah. What was your goal with the second film?
Well, it started as a kind of informal chat, just a year before we'd finished the first one. Like, well, these characters they're only just finding out who they are at the end, in the last 45 seconds of the movie. They barely have a stage. There's a ruin of a set, and they've got like a piano and some cardboard. Wouldn't it be great to see where they went? And of course, the minute you start to think about that, certainly from my world, is like, well, I relate to that. It wasn't enough just to make a little home movie at home. I wanted to be Steven Spielberg, and I know musicians who I've met in the past, they weren't happy just playing in the local pubs and garages. They wanted to play Madison Square Garden one day. And it didn't matter if they were folk singers or rock singers. There's a sense of, I want to be able to be the best version of myself. And that can apply to any walk of life. And that was the root of that discussion, that like the initial conversation of like, where do they want to be? Where do they want to go? And wouldn't it be lovely to see these characters who came from such humble beginnings try to make it on the biggest stage there is? That was such a tantalizing prospect. It was irresistible. Yeah.
There seems to be a theme in both movies about persevering, about overcoming odds, about never giving up. So, obviously these movies are going to be watched and viewed by parents and kids, but I'm just curious, what is the message you want to convey to children about that?
That's a good point. There are certainly those themes in there for sure. And it's important that we try to serve them as honorably as possible. I hope that they're discovered rather than dictated. I hope that people discover them and that they resonate, rather than me say, this is what you should feel, or this is what you should learn. But certainly those themes of perseverance, I think, because it's all very well to say, dream big dreams, go follow your dream. But it's really important to follow that up with some information, which is you're going to need more than just that enthusiasm. It's going to be tested along the way. You're going to need faith. You're going to need guts. You're going to need stamina. You're going to need that perseverance that you talked about. And friends, when they're all holding hands at the end, before that curtain goes up, that for me is it. That's it. That's why I do what I do, is because I'm surrounded by people who share this journey with me. And so I hope that children find it entertaining first and foremost, that they experience the joy that these characters experience, and they get to carry that with them. But that there's something in there that feels true. Like, it's not easy, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? That's sort of feeling of like, I feel like if that comes across to people, then that would be wonderful.
How I'm curious. I've never asked a writer director of an animated movie this question. I'm just curious. How do you make a movie geared toward children when you're an adult? Do you have to go back and think, okay, what would I wanted to learn at that age? Or, how do you do that?
It's really interesting. I don't think about, because I write children's books as well, but I never, excuse me. I never really think about, I don't know. I feel like it's just what I believe will work. And I never feel like you don't talk down, and you don't play down. Obviously there are some silly jokes in there, but they're there for everybody. And I'm not trying, I don't think it's I think it's a great thing that we try to embrace stories like grief and stories that involve, bullying and things that are serious and have real threat. Now, of course, this is a very colorful movie and it's fun but that's the thing for me, is like, I think if it feels like we're following through and that we're being authentic, we can stand and not just saying, here, you're a goofy kid there, here's some fun stuff for you. Because I like that it can work on many levels. And I think kids are smart. And even if they aren't able to sum up what they just saw, somehow they kind of get it. Do you know what I mean? There's there's an understanding. I see it in my own children. I have 4 boys, and they'll often understand something before they can articulate why or how.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that you wanted to convey in this movie that we haven't discussed? I mean, you talked about perseverance, and you talked about, aiming for a big goal that you hadn't reached before, a lofty goal.
Yeah, well, that's really, you're right. That's kind of like the potential, like finding out what it is that burning thing inside you, like finding out and being answering to that. Mm-hmm. Those are things that I can seriously relate to, and how difficult that can be to achieve that, and follow through. But I suppose there's all kinds of things in there that I really believe in, or each one of these characters has some kind of journey that I can relate to. And that's been one of the lovely things of sharing it with the audience, is that they all seem to find someone they're rooting for in a deeper way, because that's their story.
Yeah.
But you mean like what is it?
Well, you have a parent in there, the mom who has all the kids at home, and then
she's based on my wife. The pig is Rosita's based on my wife. She wasn't thrilled when I said I was going to represent her as a pig, but my wife's a kind of miraculous, extraordinary woman. We have 4 children, not 25 piglets. But when we were in the midst of that was her ability to float and run this show, and I was right beside her, but I don't have the same ability to just to be at one with this thing. And I was always amazed by her ability to just keep everything together, keep us all together. And it came out of that. Also, she'd had to compromise her career. She'd chosen to step down as being a fashion designer to just focus on the children. And I remember when she got to that point where the children were getting a bit older and she could start to go back to work, there was a fear of going back to work because she didn't know if she could still do it anymore. And there was a little lack of confidence, which she'd never had before. And that was really interesting, and obviously she got through it in the end, but it was something that it was nice to represent in Rosita, and just how important it is that we are united, the 2 of us. I need her as much as she needs me. And I like the fact that Rosita has that with her partner. He's like, yeah, he's there. What do you need? I think that's not easy, but it's certainly to be strived for. Yeah. And the same with, like when I was at school, there were dads at school who would yell at their sons from the sidelines of the soccer pitch, and that was just Johnny's father immediately. Those dads that were just didn't realize that they were yelling at their kids so furiously to say, don't fail, score the goal, it was, and obviously they worked out in the end, but I remember being struck by that as a kid, thinking, oh, that's tough being that kid. I mean, I may not be very good at soccer, but at least I don't have that guy standing in the wings. That's a lot based on things I've felt and seen along the way.
Garth, my time is up. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sorry. I jabbered through the whole thing.
No, you didn't. That was fun. And you're in Paris, so have a good evening in Paris. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
God bless.
Merry Christmas.
You too. I'll pass along the words about my mantle to my wife. Thanks so much.
Yes, please do. Tell her first class job. I mean, that is the symmetry there. There's everything. I love it. Beautiful.
God bless. Thanks so much, Garth.
Cheers, Michael. Lots of love. Bye.